Hello, as you know, my name is Kainton, and today I'm going to be talking about interview questions and answers for software engineers, software developers, computer programmers, software engineers and tests, um, developers generally, DBAs, and so on. So I'm going to be telling you about interview questions to expect and also how to answer your interview questions. Be sure that you are going to pass to some percentage of certainty, because I'm telling you what I've actually passed through. I passed through interview, I passed, I failed, so I can actually tell you what to expect and how to pass. So if you are trying to apply for a job as a developer and you rely that you know it all, you are a good developer, you are an expert, that is just one aspect of it. There are two other aspects you need to know. All right, so the first thing, you need to know how you are being graded in a programming or software developer interview. Well, before I continue, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel. If this makes sense to you, subscribe so that when I make new videos, you actually get notified, and also you encourage me to continue making these lessons. So there are three key aspects or three basic aspects that affect your grading in the interview, because the recruiters now has become really very intelligent. They are up their game, and they are really trying to get the best programmers, not just the best programmers or developers, but people that can think, people that can bring something new to the world of application development, because now there are a whole lot of developers. You are not the only good developer out there. There are many good developers, even people who are self-taught programmers. They are really doing great. So there are three things you need to know for you to pass this interview and get this job you are applying for. The first one is correct answer. So if you are asked a question, this time the technical questions I'm talking about, your answer has to be correct. If it is correct, that means you've got 50% of the point for that particular answer. Then we also have confidence level. How confident are you? How confident are you when you give your answers? That takes 20%. Then how do you approach answers? That takes 30%. I'm going to explain these last two in the next slide. So let's see. So we have correct answer for sure. The answer has to be correct, but even if it's not correct and you have these two aspects in place, then most likely you actually make the complete point for that question. Alright, so these are the following hints. One, don't say I don't know to any question. If you say I don't know to the question, most likely that makes it difficult for you to pass this interview. So don't say I don't know. That shows you don't have confidence, that you are not a learner and you are not ready to improve, because as programmers and developers, the information is there. Even if we don't know it, we have some idea about it. Let me give an example. How does SQL database store indexes? Well, you may not know exactly how it works, but you have an idea that indexes are used to improve performance. So basically, the answer that you don't know does not apply, because you know it, just that you are not able to put it in the right way, or you may not know exactly how to explain it. So don't use the phrase I don't know. Secondly, don't keep silent to any questions. You don't really keep silent. If you ask a question is tough and you don't know the answer for real, don't keep silent. So the question now is, what do you do? How do you answer questions if you don't have to say I don't know, or you don't have to keep silent either? What then do you say? Of course, you don't have to give wrong answers. Now, these are the key expressions to use. You can say something like, I can't recall exactly how it works, but with a little clue, I think I could explain because I've worked with something related to this, but not exactly. So you should be able to say something that helps the recruiter or to the employer, whoever is interviewing you, to know that you are ready to learn something new and you have done something related to this before. Because if you have been interviewed for a programmer position, a software engineer position, you have done something related to what they're asking you, because they are not asking you accounting questions or maybe questions for maybe biology or something like that. They are asking you programming question, and if you're a programmer, you actually have done something related. So try to relate the question to something you already know. Another expression you can use is, I think this relates with security. I think this relates with authentication. I think this relates with optimization of database systems and things like that, but I can't figure out exactly. So these are things you can do. There is no hard and fast rule of providing these answers, but the key thing is try to say something that relates to the fact that one, you want to learn, and two, you've done something related or you have an idea of this concepts you are being asked. Another thing to keep in mind, don't rush to answer the question even if you know the answer. This is something that is important to recruiters. If you rush to answer the question, then there is possibility that you might have crammed or memorized the answer. You may have prepared for the interview by reading some books, and that is something that shows that you don't have the practical knowledge. So don't rush to give an answer that seems as if you know it all, right? So if you are asked a question, take a little pause, try to put together how to give this response in a rounded way, and be able to start off with the simple explanation and then illustrate. Another thing is you need to give additional explanation or illustration on how the concept applies. Let me give you an example. You are asked a question like, why will you, let's say a question related to programming, why do you need to use two-factor authentication in your application? You see, so in this case you want to give advantages of two-factor authentication and then maybe illustrate the disadvantage of not doing so. So these are just hints you need to know. Maybe pause this video, use a pen and a paper, take down all of these, and then we are good to go. So let's take some examples this time. This is a typical question if you are being recruited for software engineering position. What is the difference between an error and an exception? What will you say? Now, an exception indicates a problem in the code that could be caught by the program. An error indicates most times a more serious condition in the program that needs to be resolved by a programmer. So these are the two things. An exception has to do with the code and is caught by the program. Then we have an error, most times indicates a condition that can be resolved by the programmer. The next problem is, what is the static keyword used for? Sometimes what is the static keyword used for in C# also in Java and things like that. The static keyword is used to declare static variables or a static method. A static variable is also called a class variable. It's a variable that can be used without creating an instance of a class. Static member variables share a common memory across all objects created for the respective class. A static member variable can also be referred using the class name itself. Let's look at question 3. What is .NET Framework? I know many developers have worked with .NET Framework for years, but they will not be able to define it. The .NET Framework is a software framework developed by Microsoft that provides a set of tools that allow programmers to write codes to run across multiple platforms. What do you know about JVM? JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine and is an abstract computing machine that enables a computer to run Java program. JVM, just like the .NET framework, allows the program portability across different platforms. What do you know about OOP? Mention some OOP languages. Object-oriented programming. OOP is a method of programming that models entities in the program as real entities with attributes and methods. Language includes C++, C#, Java, and Python. You can give a little more explanation if the time permits. What do you understand by the term polymorphism and how is it used? Polymorphism means having many forms. It is applied when a particular function could be defined 2 times with the same name but perform different operations based on the parameters passed into it. In object-oriented programming paradigm, polymorphism is often expressed as one interface, multiple functions. What are abstract classes and what are they used for? Abstract classes are classes created with the abstract keyword and are not meant to be instantiated. This means that you cannot create an object of an abstract class. Abstract classes are used only as a base for creating other subclasses. What do you understand by inheritance and what is the advantage? Inheritance is an object-oriented programming language feature that allows us to define a class in terms of another class, which makes it easier to create and maintain an application. Inheritance provides an opportunity to reuse the code functionality and speeds up implementation time. What is the difference between static and dynamic polymorphism? In static polymorphism, the particular operation is carried out by a function is determined at the compile time. In dynamic polymorphism, the particular operation to be carried out by a function is determined at runtime. Why will you prefer Java over C programming language? I will prefer Java over C programming language because of a number of reasons. 1. Java is an object-oriented programming language and therefore more robust than C. Java is a cross-platform language made possible by JVM, while C is not. So we are going to stop here, and in the next tutorial we actually look at more questions and answers that you may encounter in your programming or software engineering interview. I'm going to stop here. My name remains Kyneton, and remember, click on subscribe to subscribe so that you get notified when I upload the next video. Thank you.